Hello, Rachel here from the NOIC Godcast, where we offer wacky wisdom weekly from God's Word. On today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at how we doubt God, but He remains faithful. So I was pondering for a very long time on what to write this week, as in a few weeks ago when I wrote this. Really struggling to pinpoint what to talk about. I personally have many failures in my life. Amen. And so to pick out just one was pretty hard. And we don't have time to share all of them. So
let's try.
Let's start in kindergarten.
Always starts way before that.
Now this is a story. Never mind.
So I'm not sure how much of the story I've shared on here before. I feel like I've shared bits and pieces, but I felt like this was kind of a stone pillar in my life that God constantly points me back to. When Kaysen was born, he was my first baby, and we didn't really know what to expect going into the hospital that evening when we were being induced. I had labored all day, and I didn't progress at all. Things were moving very, very slowly. You guys were all like, yes.
Very slowly. We were all there the whole time.
Yes, but you got to eat the whole time.
Yeah, that's true.
So they had broke my water. And so at that point, we had a deadline, right? We had to have him by then. And I had never had surgery before. And this was even my first time in the hospital at all. So the idea of a C-section was very terrifying to me. I had just turned 20 at the time. So I was a youngin' at the time. So CJ, I don't have power. So my doctor came in at 1 a.m. and told me that I had until 2 a.m. to be fully dilated or I'd have to have a C-section. 1 hour didn't seem like a very long time when I had already been in there for over a day and nothing was happening. So it was in the middle of the night, and then CJ was in the room with me, but he was sleeping so sweetly on the couch, so I didn't want to wake him. And the waiting room was full of all of my family, but I knew they were hoping they were sleeping. But Josh, I knew, was never sleeping.
He doesn't sleep.
And so
I'm a vampire. So we've discussed this before. What doesn't sleep? It doesn't matter. Me.
Yes, I think every living thing sleeps at some point in their life. Yeah, except for you. So I knew what was ahead was impossible, and it seemed so daunting to me. But I felt like I wanted someone to come and pray with me. And so I told him the situation, and he came in right away and started praying. I don't know if you really remember all of this or not, but it was 1:30. We were praying. My doctor walks in, and I can just remember the moment Josh was still praying as she came in, and she was kind of being reverent to what he was doing, and my heart just sank when I seen her because it had only been 30 minutes. Yeah. I still got 30 more minutes. And I put God on a deadline, and I didn't think that it could be done, let alone done even earlier. So she checked me, and just like that, she said, "Let her push." And in that very moment, it was so quick, but I realized I had doubted God, and He came through anyway.
Yep.
There was just something so special when God specifically answers a prayer just for you. I don't know if you guys have any instances in that in your life, but there's a thing about praying specifically that's so special to me now, because it's one thing when you have prayer requests that you share amongst people. I think that's important to have a community prayer, but when there's something that's so intimate that you don't share with other people, and then God answers that, there's just something so special about that. I don't like admitting that I doubted God, and I thought that this would be impossible, that He could do all things. I knew he could do the impossible, and I knew He could do all things, but this was too much. Yeah. I think we've all maybe had that moment in our lives before. Or even for me, why would He do this for little old me? I'm just a nobody. But He did. And like I said earlier, this truly was something that God has brought me back to, and has brought me to where I am in my Christianity today. It's the moment that, I don't know, if it's in Joshua where they talk about the stone pillars that they built, and someone preached it. Yeah. So I was trying to find that, but I couldn't find it. But even in the Bible, they talk about pillars that you can look back to, that God did a monumental thing. And this is one of the big ones in my life.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of an obvious comparison, but it reminded me of Peter walking on the water. The storm was getting fierce and the disciples were scared. Jesus comes out walking on the water, and Peter says, "Lord, if it be thou, bid me to come unto thee on the water," from Matthew 14:28. That's how I felt when Josh came to pray for me. I knew God had done amazing things, so why couldn't He do this too?
Yeah.
But when he saw the winds boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him, and said, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? From Matthew 14:30-31. Just like when the doctor came in and I thought it was too soon for God to have worked, Peter looked at the storm and doubted Jesus. I have to think it probably wasn't the greatest feeling for God to say that to you, to say that to Peter. But I can think of many times in my life that Jesus could have easily had said the same thing to me. I'm so thankful that even when we doubt, he still comes through. Our failures don't hold him back. We know Peter goes on to fail a few more times in his life.
3 specifically.
But God still uses him to build his church. I have to believe that these failures were also stone pillars in Peter's life that he could look back on, remembering how much he messed up and how many times God still came through anyway.
Kind of reminds me, Kevin and I were talking right before the podcast. I think Jamie was here maybe.
Might have been.
And we were talking about how God cannot be disappointed because there's nothing God doesn't know. And disappointment actually means they didn't know that. It didn't see it coming. And so like even in these, like, yeah, we doubt God, but God knew we would doubt him before we even
doubted.
He was. I mean, just like Peter that night, Peter's like, oh, what did I do? 3 times the cock crow. I just said it. I gotta go jump in the lake naked. And Jesus is like, yeah,
why?
Peter, before I called you and said yeah, Jesus' first question was why. And then his second question was like, before I even called you to follow me, I knew you were gonna do this. So God is never disappointed in us because he knows all things. He sees our coming. And yet, to your point, in spite, he calls us in the first place. In spite, he lets us go through these dilemmas. In spite of his knowing this, he uses us for his glory anyways.
I think in the case of Peter, it's like knowing that you're going to do something 3 times. You know what I mean? Like after the second time, I'm like, I'm going in the bathroom.
No one talk to me.
No one talk to me. Nothing. And it's so funny because as much as we try to avoid it, like someone would have popped out of the toilet and said something. And we're like, I don't know him. Oh, you know what I mean? Kind of like a Looney Tunes cartoon, for example. But like God, I mean, Jesus told him 3 times. And like, it's like after the first time, I know personally, I've been like, I can't believe I just did that.
Right.
I have to get it from everyone so no one can... You know, so
do you think it's like that? Because that's a hilarious take on it. Do you think it's like that where Peter's like, you know, oh, did it again. Oh, I did it again. And then, or do you think it's more of when Peter saw Jesus on that cross? Well, really, it started before the cross. But when Peter saw Jesus be arrested, he almost washed his hands of Jesus in a way.
Yeah.
Like he was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm out, guys. Peace. Like he was done. And so like in all 3 instances, it wasn't that he was even fighting to do that. It was more of, this is over. Yeah, exactly. Like, self-preservation. And it's kind of what Rachel's talking about. Like when we doubt God, we're really self-preserving. Like, you know what I'm saying? We're in some way saying, well, he wouldn't do this for me, or it doesn't matter for me, or this is just, it didn't work out the way I thought it was going to. God didn't come through. And so I'm out. Well, that says more about him than it does us. And yet all we're worried about is what we look like. You know what I mean?
Well, it's difficult, I think, at times, based on the world that we live in, because like the world just like hounds you to have doubt. It's like you cannot believe, like you can believe in Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, all these other things, but the minute you believe in God, like you get like ridiculed. And people, it's funny to me because people try to point out times from their perception that God didn't come through. You know what I mean? And I'm like, he surely came through at that time. You're just looking at it from a different set of eyes that I'm looking at. But he clearly came through in the situation you're talking about.
And that's the thing, though. You have to take, and we were talking about this before, too. You have to take God in all that he is. Like, yes, God is a sovereign, humongous, if you can say that about God, like, big deity. Like, I don't know if that's better than humongous. But, like, he is infinitely beyond what we can imagine. But he's still a person, if you will. Like he's not human. But he has an identity, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That's a good way. And so in having an identity, like, he is going to at times choose to not come through at 2 a.m. He's going to at times not come through on that impossible thing. He has a reason for that because he has an identity that he's trying to fulfill a plan that we can't see.
For the end of the story, technically, so I've shared before, but 4 years after this, I don't know how many years are between Casey and
That's not good. You're supposed to be the mother.
4 years.
You think he's gonna help?
So she's gonna be 4 this year. So it's like 3.5.
Yeah. So
Wait.
so I thought I had progressed quite a bit in my Christianity and stuff, and so like I went into this praying that like God just take care of us, let me and this baby be healthy with Corrie, and the same thing happened. Child number 3, and the same thing happened. I wasn't progressing, nothing was happening. Actually, every time that I would start progressing, her heart rate would drop, or we would lose it altogether, or whatever. And I ended up having to have a C-section there. And in that moment, I did feel like,
what happened?
but like last time, you came through last minute, man. Like,
Yeah, you were on
what now?
We were all waiting down to the 20-minute.
Yeah, and so I almost felt like kind of like Kevin was saying, like, but this is the one time that God did feel me. You know what I mean? Like, you can't think that. But then once we were in the OR, as soon as they cut me open, they said the cord was around her neck, and so she was being strangled. And
I guess that's my point. God is not a formula. There's not a formula for it. Because if it was, it'd be all right. Every time we wait until 20-minute mark, and then God will come through. Like, we're good, guys. Just get to the 20-minute mark.
But that's not faith.
But that's not faith because you know what's going to happen, and that's not God, because that would mean we could understand His ways.
Exactly.
And so God He has an agenda, He has a plan, He has a purpose, and He has an identity. And in all of those things together, there are times He's going to save you from the C-section, and there's times He's going to make you go through the C-section.
Yes.
The point is to trust Him regardless.
Yes.
And that's what we're missing.
So that's what I was going to say. So is there a word that's not, I guess it would be faith, but like word that's like, you're not doubting, but you're not sold that He's going to do exactly what you want Him to do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So like you were praying for that.
I think it's like, I trust you, wink. Like, I don't know that's a word, but it's a phrase. But like, that's how I see Christians. Like, we're like, I trust Him. I love to trust you, Lord.
Yeah.
Like, but then things get sticky to like, all right. Like,
well, that's the thing.
did you not see this?
Because
you got a big megaphone, hear the blinky noise.
Megaphone?
Yeah, like that.
I was thinking magnifying glass. But
I hear things in cartoons. So it's like,
That explains so much.
like I feel like there's something to be said for like, so that like Kaysen in that situation, if it wouldn't have, and it would have ended up in C-section, it's not that you doubted Him, but you were just whatever He wanted. Does that make sense?
Right.
So like I think there's that thing of like, and it is to have that specific prayer, but also to be able to be like, okay, He knows better than me, regardless of if your prayer was, I'm going to have this baby naturally. You know
that's
what I mean?
the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Shadrach,
Abednego.
Meshach, and Abednego mindset is what I'm trying to say, which is not easy, but I did it. Basically, understanding like they did come before God and say like, we really don't want to burn up in the fire. Our preference would be no smoke things, but even if you don't, we're going in. And like that's the mentality that we're supposed to have as Christians. There's nothing wrong for praying specifically. Jesus told us to. Like there's nothing wrong with saying specifically, can you deliver me from the C-section? That would be my desire. Even Jesus said, not my will. You know, He prayed, let this cup pass from me. But ultimately, just like Jesus, it comes down to not my will, your will be done. If we perish in the fire, we perish. Like ultimately a surrender to the goodness of God and the goodness of His plan, even when we don't understand it.
It's not a contentment in knowing that He's going to answer it the way I want it. He's going to answer it the way that it needs to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like it's like wow, a couple things just hit me in the head. Okay, so like the song I can't say I've been listening to because I only hear it when it comes on the radio, and then I'm too slow for my Shazam to actually like get it. But anyway, part of the song is basically about like what should we do when God doesn't move the mountain? Okay, like what is our response? Like, God needs you to move that mountain, and then you get there and it's like, the mountain's still here. He didn't move the mountain. Like, you know, what do we do? You know, He didn't move the mountain for a reason. Like, there's a reason why you came, you know, to the mountain. So, like you just said, like our mindset has to be like His will. So it wasn't His will to move the mountains. So now we have to climb a mountain and climb down the other side. Not what I want to do today, but
nonetheless,
this is what is presented.
And that's what separates God from a genie. Like I know we say that all the time, but do we really read that? Like God is not a genie. If He was a genie, 3 wishes, rub the lamp. Like I get the mountain moved, I get the C-section taken away, I get the water, the storms calmed. Like if He was a genie, we really would have no need relationship for Him.
But I also think we would miss out on a lot.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. So like you zoom out of the gospel, like we could say, oh, God just doesn't care about me because He didn't come through at the last minute, the 20-minute mark. He didn't move that mountain. He just doesn't care. But then we remember, oh yeah, He literally moved heaven and earth, came as a baby, was born, was crucified on our behalf. He does care. He just has a reason here.
Right.
And I think that's a mindset that we need to keep in mind at all times in our Christianity when things don't go. It's not that He doesn't care. It's not even that He's absent. there's a reason here. He's proven his love, and this painful situation, this is out of love.
Yeah. But in the end, he's ultimately doing what is best for us.
Right.
So even if I would have a C-section with Casey in the first place, or even with Corrie, like I believe the C-section saved her life.
Right.
So though it was uncomfortable for me,
Yeah.
it saved my baby. And so I think that throughout life in general, we have to keep the mindset of whether God answers us the way I want or not, he is doing what's best regardless.
Yep.
I often relate like God's relationship with us to the relationship that you all have with your lovely children.
Yeah.
And when we were out in the back just recently, we were talking just about different ways of raising a child, you know, and like we all came to the conclusion that even when you have to say no to your child or punish your child, like you're not doing it to be like, no, like you can foresee where this can lead to. So you're actually stopping them from harming themselves or just making a mistake in their life. And it's the same thing with God. Like he's looking at us saying like, no, you need that mountain there for a reason. You know what I mean?
Well, and the strength that comes from climbing the mountain.
Exactly.
Like there's literally something he's doing on your behalf, not only for you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I think a lot of times, like as parents, it takes more love to say no than it does to say yes.
Yeah.
Like spoiled parents who are missing in the life of a child, who don't necessarily love them in a healthy way, they say yes to everything. Well, it takes more love sometimes to say no, even when they're kicking and screaming and crying and biting and whatever they do. Mine doesn't do any of those things at the same time.
Just say at lunch.
Separate situations.
She said to us, "Do you want to hear a joke?"
Oh no!
And we're like, okay. She told the
the
joke.
answer is always no when she asks.
Well, we didn't know this, okay?
Oh no!
Juliet 101. Okay, so we were all like, sure. And like she said the joke, and then she hit us with the punchline, and we were like,
no guts.
okay. And like Miguel's like, can you explain that to me? And she's like, my mommy told me that joke.
Was it about a chicken or about
a chicken?
Okay.
And we
It's
were
the
all
same
just
one.
like,
It's the same one.
Yeah.
Is it a bad joke?
Is it what?
It's the because.
Yeah.
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 And-
It's all on how you present the
Miguel
Yeah.
wouldn't get that.
Right.
He's
No.
not sophisticated on farm life. I don't know.
Can you say sophisticated and farm life in the same
I
sentence?
just did.
but he used the word not also. So.
This came somewhere I didn't see coming. This is-
You know, one thing, and I don't think it actually like necessarily works this way, but like my mom always said to us when we were younger, be careful, he might give you what you're
yeah,
what you ask for.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the whole thing is like you just have to be willing to drop anything that your preconceived notations of anything and just go by whatever he wants.
And that played like if you most people skip the Old Testament, but that really plays out over and over in the Old Testament, especially again in the book of Kings and Chronicles, because Israel wants to live in their land.
Yeah.
Like this is their baby. Like this is what God promised them. This is what God said you can have. I'm going to give it to you, make you prosper. And so they wanted to live there.
Yeah.
Well, that was not God's plan. Because of their sin, God removed them from there. And so there's literally this group of people that's like, no, we're not leaving. And God's like, okay,
Yeah.
stay there.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
referendly. That's what the Bible says. And so just like that, like, yeah, sometimes he'll just give you what you ask for.
Yeah.
That's not the best thing for you. That's
No.
not going to make you stronger. That's not going to really accomplish his will. But hey, you got what you wanted.
Well, just like when you have kids and they want to jump off of something and you keep on telling them, don't
Right.
jump off things, don't jump off things. Yeah, seriously. Corrie, this is a new thing that she does. If she doesn't like your answer, she boops your nose.
That's hilarious.
like I
Jamie
say,
told her no, and she's like,
I can't do it. And then I kept on telling her no. And then one time she was just like, she just held it. She held it there. And I'm like, the answer's
That
still
is
no.
like the most Corrie thing I could ever. That's funny.
But like you're telling him no, don't do that, don't do that. And then you're like, all right, do it.
Yeah.
breaks a leg.
Breaks a leg. Well, you learned.
Token's
Hopefully
going to
we
have a
won't
great
have
childhood.
Listen, that's how I grew up. That's how he's just going to have to live. If you can't make it,
Yeah, all
sorry.
three survived mostly.
Yeah.
So how many
Yeah,
bones did you
that's-
break growing up?
I've never broken a bone.
CJ broke,
CJ broke all of them.
Yeah, CJ broke the bones for the whole family.
Two, that's it. They really
One
seem
for
like-
Jamie, one for Lucas. What do you?
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
I mean, I broke a tooth,
I
but
broke.
teeth don't count.
Yeah, you-
technically.
Like, you're like half of your tooth was gone.
Yeah, this one, it's fake.
You can see a line.
Really? Fascinating. The things I've learned today.
Yeah.
Not about Jesus.
No, but Jamie's fake dentures, face dentures. Well, technically they're both. They're fake face dentures. See, I learned something else new. That's
told
what false
yourself
teeth
that?
are called. Yeah, fake face dentures.
All right. Well, anyway, so our considerable quote is from Corrie Ten Boom.
Of course.
If you want to hear God's voice clearly and you are uncertain, then remain in his presence until he changes this uncertainty. Often much can happen during this waiting for the Lord. Sometimes he changes pride into humility, doubt into faith and peace, and sometimes lust into purity. The Lord can and will do it.
They just don't write it. They just don't make them like her anymore.
I know.
That's a good one.
It's not even her actual name.
Cornelia. No, Cornelia.
That's your husband.
My husband. Ten Boom?
Yeah, like it's not actual name thing. We talked about that.
You gonna tell us her real name?
Like it's her name, but it's not her name.
Yeah. Anyway.
The audience is dying to know. Like, what's her real name?
So I'm going to change my featured content, so I don't know who has to do that.
That's just say it, but no.
Okay. You said they will be done, so I was going to change it to the, is that by Carrie Jo?
No, what is her name? I can see the picture. Oh, she sings with a group. Oh, what's her name? Hillary Scott.
Hillary Scott, that's what it is.
No, that's true. I'm standing on.
No, that's
Is it the same lady? Same lady.
Yeah, because
Hillary Scott. We'll go with that.
It has the gray
Mom
background.
and Missy could text us if it's wrong.
It has the gray background with the scribbly
Yeah,
words.
I can see that. Oh,
Hillary Scott.
We're looking it up right now.
We're doing the
I need
search.
to go back to that. I wasn't done with that.
I
will be
didn't
done.
realize.
Okay, Hillary Scott and
Got
the
it.
Scott family, thy will.
Yay.
Okay, go back. I need the other thing. Put the thing back where it
I was going to say it.
We have the best tech guy in the business.
Yeah, that's right.
Just Google stuff while we're talking.
So the Charge Up Challenge this week is to just set aside some time this week and write down maybe your stone pillars, moments in your life that grew you closer to the Lord. Maybe you had doubt, but God came through anyway. Maybe God answered an impossible prayer. Whatever the things in your life are, I think it's important to look back over those pillars throughout our lives. The answer from last week's quiz was C.
See the Sea of Galilee.
Okay.
Come on, that's great. It's fun for the tongue.
That's
See the
why I
Sea of
made it
Galilee.
See the Sea of Galilee.
Okay.
I feel like there's a
She's
VeggieTales
not a
song
lizard.
there.
She doesn't do that tongue thing.
Touche.
So this week's trivia is how many different campgrounds has the NOYC been
I'm not
to?
even sure I know the answer to that.
A,
I've
3.
erased.
I had to think
I've
about
erased
it.
5 of them out of my mind.
A, 3, B, 2, C, 4, or D, 5.
Did I ruin that?
C4. I like C4. No, I like the C4 every time. Every time it's 4, it's C4. Like,
And then-
I understood the first time.
you had a glazed
All
look on
Kevin
your
had to
eye.
say was,
But you had a glazed look over your eye like, I don't know what's going on.
I do that usually when you talk.
Oh, that's true. That's
He
true.
didn't respond to my so I wasn't sure if he like got that.
I heard.
Just keep going.
We're not beatboxing. I totally read the moment wrong.
That's box and cats.
Boots and cats. Aldi's version. Boxing cats and boxing. I guess that would work. Boots are
All
better.
these versions.
Boots and
I
cats
was
are boots.
traumatized by the box.
Everything's
You'd
a
have a
box.
cat with you. That'd be ridiculous.
No. That would be weird.
Do you wear rain boxes?
So-
Rain boxes?
You said boots traumatize you. No, boxes traumatize you. I don't know. Let's end this episode.
Boots. Boots and Watsons.
Well,
If anyone made it to the end, we're sorry.
make sure to comment the answer below. And if you have any questions or comments,
If you have questions, don't come here.
Maybe about our sanity.
Oh.
like, share, and subscribe.
Concerns right on
right for
doctors.
us.
They go right into the shredder.
We listen.
Well, until next time.
Do we want to add our new thing that I talked to you
Okay.
about?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So, like, if you have like a prayer request or just want to hear a shout out, birthday, anniversary, anything, just comment it in the comment section.
It'll be put on the following.
The next
Yeah, and it'll
video.
be following. So after you watch this episode, if you have a birthday, a prayer request, or something, just comment, and then next week we'll address it.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So this is our final
Yes,
episode.
this
This time
one
I mean
actually
it.
is, yes.
This is our final episode of the.
Fantastic failure.
Thank you. It totally escaped me.
Yeah.
Fantastic Failures. It's been a fun
Serious?
series.
Yeah.
There you go.
So nice you had to say it twice.
That's right. And so, anyways, next week we will be back with our brand new February series, which I'm actually really excited about. This is totally something different than we've really done before in the NYC Godcast. So we'll tune in next week to find out. But it's gonna be a great one.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
You still have Bob going on.
I know.
I think that's
It's
a permanent
been-
state,
it's
really.
like it's been
It's
4
been for
weeks.
12 years, I think.
Have you tried using the saline?
No.
Sailing.
No.
Sailing. Oh shoot. We got the smile.
It's never good if CJ smiles.
No.
No.